I'm absolutely thrilled to introduce our latest guest on the Trusted podcast. All the way from California, we've got none other than Eduardo Repetto. Eduardo has had an illustrious career, serving 20 years as the co-CEO of Dimensional Fund Advisors before setting up Avantis more recently. Over just 5.5 years, Avantis has grown to $65 billion under management. We hope you enjoy watching this as much as we enjoyed making it. Sit back, grab a cuppa, and enjoy the content.
Fragile in our shells.
Eduardo, welcome to the Trusted podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
No, you're very welcome. All the way over from sunny California.
Yeah. Well, sun is here today. London is having an amazing day today.
I think we've got a warm snap for the next week, so you're in luck until Friday, and then might even get a British barbecue in at this rate.
That's nice. It's beautiful. When it's sunny, London is amazing.
It is. You can't beat London in the sun. But, I mean, welcome to the podcast. I mean, we're really interested to hear all about your story. I mean, our audience are going to be thinking, okay, well, what can I learn from this process, and what can we translate from your experience to them on the sales side of things? And to take it back to the start, we're always interested in our guest's background and how they actually got into the industry and how that translated to now where you are in your current position.
Okay. I'm a weird guy because I'm from South America. I grew up in Argentina, and then I went to the United States to get my master's degree. My undergrad was in engineering, civil engineering. My master was in mechanical engineering in the East Coast. Then I went to the West Coast to Caltech and got my PhD in aeronautical engineering. All weird things, but computers, materials, very weird things. But then I didn't want to do academic work or work for an engineering company. So what I did, I moved to finance. My former boss, when I was younger, was a mathematician, went to work on Wall Street, told me, you will have fun. So I finished working in finance after my PhD, instead of becoming a professor or something like that. And it has been a great experience. Here we are 27 years later or something like that, 25 years later.
And you've enjoyed every step?
Yeah, to be fair, I enjoyed some of my engineering or science steps. We have to enjoy life. We always think, I want to achieve the end and succeed. But you have to enjoy the process, because if not, it's too late to enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you've almost got to have that sustainability piece to what you do, because otherwise you end up burnt out very, very quickly, and then you don't reach the end goal in the last instance anyway.
Right. Yeah, the process, you have to enjoy the process.
Got to enjoy the process. And actually, that's really interesting that you say that, because when we first met, I could sense your passion for how you explained things like an investment philosophy. And actually, that art of storytelling that you've learned through an engineering background, then onto the finance side, and obviously now into kind of the investment piece. It was really interesting to hear how you used an analogy to tell a story really clearly. And so how can our audience use stories to get their point across? Yes,
sometimes, my background is technical, no? So, math are weird things. So sometimes we live in our own world and we try to use our language to speak with other people. The problem that people may speak a different language. And so we are forcing our clients, our prospects, our counterparties to adapt to our language. I always think that it's better if we adapt to their language. And so if you have any concept that you want to tell them, and you want them to understand, if you can translate it to the language, and in particular, if you can bring analogies that are part of their life, their daily life, they can start getting the concept faster. And then you can get more and more complicated up to whatever level you need. But just being able to communicate something so that they can have the first hook. They say, okay, I get, there is something interesting to engage and put the effort. That for me is very, very important.
You use the analogy of a restaurant to define value for money in investing. So if you could tell our audience a little bit about how you translate that, that'd be really useful.
So we started Avantis, an investment business inside a bigger company called American Century 5.5 years ago. And, starting an investment management company when you have so many other big $1 trillion as a management company, it's an an exercise, but we were not fear. We said, let's get it done. But whenever you start a business, you have to think, what do I bring to the table? Yeah. And I always try to think about a restaurant because it's a very, very competitive business. So if you have a restaurant, you want to succeed, you have three, let's simplify the problem. You have three levers. You have to have food, quality of food, good or bad food, you have to have price, high or low price, and you have to have service. So these three things are very fundamental if you want to have a restaurant. And so imagine that you say, I'm going to have a restaurant that has bad food, high price, and bad service. Odds is that it's not going to work very well.
There are a few around.
Yeah. So if you want to have a restaurant that probably succeeds, you have to have good food, good service, and good price for what you deliver, because it's good value to the clients. So that's the concept that I always like to see. What value do we bring for our clients? And so you have a restaurant, good food, good service, and good price, the restaurant is going to be full, and we're going to do well. If we have an investment management company like us, we want good service, because if you are a customer and call us and we never answer, it's not going to work. We want very good service. We want to be attentive to what you need. We also have to have very good product, very investment solutions, because if you invest with us, you have to be happy, but also we have to have it at a good price. If you have these three components, my guess is we were going to do well. And in 5 years, we grew from $0 to $65 billion. And so it has been going well.
Definitely. I mean, the feedback that we hear all the time is that, those three components, you tick that box incredibly well. And in that time, you have seen some phenomenal success. How do you ensure those three key pillars are met consistently, especially on the service side? Because we know how difficult it is to ensure that those early adopters still get that same superstar service that they're used to as you grow and expand.
Yeah. Well, you have to always think about what's your team. If you are bigger, you need a bigger team, because you need to keep on servicing your clients. It's not we're not selling used cars that, I sold the car and never see you again. My goal is to service you for life. And so I need to continue providing services. For that, you have to expand the team if you are growing. Part of the issue is get feedback, engage with people. So I want feedback. Even bad feedback is good feedback, because it allows us to be better. We know that we are not perfect. We know that we'll never be perfect. There is always room for improvement. So the more that you learn, the better that you can apply resources or training on others or on yourself to try to become closer to that imaginary perfection line that we know that is never going to be achieved.
Back to the point of using analogies to help with storytelling. Something that we touched on before this session was about how we take something incredibly complicated and simplify it. And it really stuck with me that you were able to take what is quite a complex investment philosophy when you get down into the nuts and bolts and draw it on the back of a napkin. What else can people use to help turn something incredibly complex into the simple? And you mentioned that your university lecturers were able to do exactly the same, take something like mechanical engineering and break it down.
I always think that you have to find something that relates to who is your counterparty. There's no one to be perfect. No, the analysis is never a perfect reflection of the reality that you're trying to explain, but they have to give you the concept and be close enough. Once you get the concept, once you can convey the concept, you probably can engage more and more and go deeper. For example, there are some investment solutions that are, in my opinion, bad, but they're very, very cheap. Yeah, and you can say, "Do you like cheap sushi?" The moment that you say like cheap sushi, people think cheap and say, "Oh, I'm not going to spend more." But then say sushi, oh my God, if it's bad, I'm going to be bad.
Food poisoning.
So now we are engaging in the conversation how much I pay for what I get. And that's something that is grabbing attention. And then you can translate that to particular, you're selling cars. Okay, this is a car that just breaks down, but it's very cheap. Or this is a car that runs forever and it's cost a little bit more, but you're not going to have all the headaches. So you can engage into your own business, but you have that concept that forces you to think about quality versus price or any other thing. And so, each one of us will have our own ideas of what resonates. Some people do a lot about sports, for example. I'm not really good about that, but I like experiences of real life and translate that into a way to engage in a conversation that then can become more and more technical as needed.
Do you think that providers in years gone by have used complication to justify higher charges, and that we have now seen a simplification because we are having to distribute this to wealth managers or financial planners who then need to translate it again to their clients? Have you seen a simplification over time?
I think in some cases you see, not all the cases. Some people live in their technical world and they really don't want or they can't. I really don't know. Convey, speak the counterparty language. I think in particular when you're speaking with intermediaries. So, for example, we don't sell directly to the end investor. We work with intermediaries. That can be advisors, can be consultants. And not only we have to convey our concepts to them, we have to do it in a way that they have to convey it with their end clients. So if we go very, very technical and we don't provide an easy way for them to convey what we say to the clients, they have to develop that language. It will be easier, and in my opinion, it's easier for us to develop that language, and then at least they have an example of how we think, and they can change it. They can do their own language, but they have an example. So whenever we speak with intermediaries, we try to go with language that is easy for them to grasp and then tell to the end client, but also we have the technical language so they feel comfortable in what we do. So we're always thinking whenever there is intermediary, you have two layers of sales. You have the sell to the intermediary and then the intermediary to end client. If we give something to someone that is in between that is so complicated that they can't really convey to the end client, odds that is going to be used is much lower, no? So it's better, I think, to try to give language that is useful, that is truthful, that is descriptive of what you're doing, but also that it can be translated and used.
The biggest question we know that clients are asking their financial advisors, whether it's the UK, the US or elsewhere, is, am I going to be okay in the end? They are looking for that reassurance with their advisors. And I think that actually the simplification process allows them to engage with that, and it does appeal. I mean, I imagine my parents sitting with their financial advisor, and he's done an excellent job at removing some of their concerns around investing. When I spoke to my dad initially about potentially the portfolio that he was going to use, he said, I don't care. Like, as long as it's going to be the right price and, the investment philosophy is something that you can believe in, then I'm more interested in when I can retire and that kind of thing.
You just said something very interesting, something I can believe in. If you can believe in something that you can grasp, understand, in something that you have no idea what it is, it's difficult to believe. And so, I'm not a big believer in black boxes, no? I have this magnificent black box or crystal ball that does everything for you. Oh, believing in crystal balls, I don't know if I do, no? But if you are able to convey things in a way, okay, I got it. I can get deeper, but I already got it.
Yeah.
I believe it. So the belief part is very, very important. I also use an advisor, by the way. I say, why the heck use an advisor? Well, probably not to use investments because I can do my investments on my own. But, advice is way more than investments. And, you have a family planning for transition of wealth and just what happens if I die and, all these things, insurance, taxes, we pay those. I'm not an expert. Each one of us are an expert in different things. And if we're able to use what we do very well, we can work with other people to help us in the rest of our, wealth management aspects.
We're actually seeing quite a big trend in the UK of financial advisors also having financial advisors, and they may even have the expertise on the tax, but sometimes they need the emotional management. They need somebody to confide in over personal matters, and we're starting to see that more and more, and we start to see more people say, it's been a big game changer for them, because otherwise the whole responsibility, the full accountability rests on you, and sometimes you may have missed something because you're busy dealing with an emotional aspect to it. And so we're seeing that more and more often, which is why it's interesting that you say, because the investment piece is sorted, but the bits around the fringes people still need guidance with.
Okay, I didn't know, but yeah, I use and I'm very happy. Yeah,
brilliant. And actually, on the note of happiness, we've got this idea that Optimism helps deliver some of that passion when you are speaking to those advisors. And I think that passion is infectious. I've always said if I ever wrote a self-help book, it would be based on a conversation that you and I had when we were leaving quite a dark and dingy restaurant and came out and the sun was shining. And I said, it's due to rain later. And you said, that's why England's green. How do you maintain a positive mental attitude? How do you apply that optimism to help inspire your team, to help inspire your advisors and your clients? And what can our audience do to try and find the good in everything?
Well, I try to be positive. You cannot always be positive, but I try. But remember, you have to enjoy the process. That's what we said. So the process is going to be bumpy. No one has a perfect path that is all just clear and no potholes or anything. It's going to be potholes. There is going to be bumps. There is going to be a lot of things. But you're doing this because you think that it's worth doing and you think that the outcome, whatever it is going to be great. And even though there's uncertainty where exactly the outcome is, it's going to be better than the present. If not, what's the hope? We have to enjoy it. We have to enjoy life. We have to enjoy the interaction. We have to enjoy all what we do, because if not, why to do it? And so, working with advisors, working with consultants, working with investors, working with teammates is part of the fun. And having uncertainties that, all of us, in financial markets, you can imagine every day there is something, but that's part of the process, and overcoming the uncertainties is great. Yesterday we were watching this game. It was an amazing game, and the team was losing 2-3 in minute 90, and you say, oh my God, it's over. They keep on going, they score, and then they won in overtime. So it's amazing. You cannot give up. You have to enjoy all these things. The outcomes should be great, and if we try hard. It's not going to maybe be exactly what we want, because all of us want perfection, but it's going to be good, better than the present. And so at least that's how we fight on a daily basis. And we have an amazing team, and everyone has a positive attitude.
I wish it was more prevalent. If you look at the financial press, you will see doom and gloom, and we know that sex and violence sells, and so negativity seems to be such a feature in the press. So I'm pleased to hear that you're championing positivity, because it's not common in the world that we see in the papers that we see.
But the end investor, the mom and pops out there that hire an advisor to put money in the market, hoping that they have a better, they're doing it with positive hopes. Despite all the news, despite everything that may be horrible, they have a hope. If not, why they will do that investment? So all of us love the idea that we have well-funded hope. Just crystal ball is not, but you have something that is well-funded, that you have high probabilities of achieving that. You get happy because you work towards that goal. You are trained. You were a rugby player. To me, you train hard because you want to go and play a game. If you know that you're going to lose no matter what you do, it's not going to be as fun that saying, no, we put the hours and whatnot, and we're going to try to win those games. And that's why you put all that effort. Well, it's the same, no difference.
I once went on a 13-game losing streak, and by game 13 I was a little bit fed up, but thankfully the season ended and we went back to it again in September. But I know where you're coming from, and actually from that point of view, Avantis has gone on an incredible growth journey from $0 to $65 billion in 5.5 years. For those people who are sitting there who are going through a growth trajectory at the moment, what are some of the challenges that they may face, and how can they overcome them?
No, well, everyone is a little bit different, so we have to humble ourselves. We have our own path, but people have different paths, yes, and we are by no means we're claiming what we do is a solution for everything. So for us, one of the most important things is having the right people. We're in the people business, so and we like technical people, but we also like people that have very good communication skill, but also very good people skill, and that they care about what they do and they enjoy what they do. So we like all these combinations. And so because you have someone that is very technical, but you cannot really work, the technicality is not useful. And you have someone that is very cheerful and, well, no, but doesn't have the technical aspect, it doesn't work. So you need to define what the core of talents that you need in your teammates and try to find teammates that have those talents. So you go to work, you enjoy, you rely on them, they rely on you, they wouldn't put the extra effort, the extra steps in order to get to the end goal. And our own goal at the end of the day is trying to help those mom and pops that we don't know because we work through advisors or consultants, trying to help them. And so I think if we put that extra step and that produces a better outcome for someone, you should be happy. So we have to put that extra step. It's part of the process. Enjoy the process.
Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, the person I report to at the moment is a big believer in get the right people in, and there will be opportunities for them to move, or as the business grows there will be opportunities, but get the right people into the right business who've got the same mentality and the same objective, because then once people are pulling in the same direction, it helps to spring optimism and people start to again go back to that point of really believing in the company's mission.
Yeah, for example, we like people that challenge. I have no problem with someone telling me you are absolutely wrong. Of course, I'm wrong many times. No one is perfect. So if someone tells you, I don't think that you're right, and you stop and say, you got a point, I'm not right, that's something better for the end customer. So having this ability to, provide feedback, no matter what you're wrong, you might be, the top general and you be the last hired soldier, doesn't matter. It's that last hired have something good to say, worth listening. And we like that environment where people can speak up.
Mm-hmm. And when you are looking at business growth, Avantis, the team is growing, but specifically you're investing in the sales team in the UK and in Europe. What attributes are you looking for specifically in salespeople?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So we produce something that is technical. So we really need to have people in the team that really understand what we do. And even better is understand what we do, understand what others do, so they can compare us with others with some level of proficiency. We also want people that are good teammates, because if not, it's very difficult to work together. We also want people that have good communication skills, so they can communicate that technical aspects to the people. And we want people that are not afraid of just picking the phone, doing the extra mile and conveying things and knocking doors and reaching out, because that's part of the sales job. So if you really go out there and knock on the doors, sell is a very difficult job. You get rejected a lot of times. And it's some people just get very disappointed by rejection, but some people just thrive in that process. So if you are able to just thrive in that process and trying to know, okay, this is not the right partner, but another one is, but you are able to do that, but also bring the technical expertise, the team expertise, and just good attitude, trying to do the right thing, I think you will do well. I'll tell you an analogy. I have 3 sons, and now they're older, 20. Well, it's going to be 23 in a week, 23, 21, and 18. Yeah. But when the middle boy was in elementary school, they have to go and sell tickets for some raffle to raise money for the school. And he was going the bicycle in the neighborhood, knocking at doors and trying to sell this ticket for this raffle. And was going him, I don't know, he must have been 10, I don't know, and the little brother was 8 or 9 and 7, I don't know, running in the bicycle and knocking at doors. And some people were buying, some people were not buying. And some people were nice. I come, have a tea, have a cookie, but I'm not buying. And so my wife once asked my boy, say, hey, what do you feel with the rejection? And he said, no, they have the right not to buy. That's okay. Some will, some not, but I will find the ones. My job is to find the ones that really want to engage. And so that good attitude on the sales guy, on top of the on the technical, the good team, the caring, the ethics and whatnot, is very good, and most people have it.
If you were laid out theoretically with 2 team members who were potentially going to join Avantis, and they're on the distribution side, one had very good technical knowledge but potentially needed help with the people skills, and one of them who was a very good people person but didn't have the technical awareness. Although we know the nirvana is to have the best of both worlds, but do you think it's easier to bring somebody in line with the Avantis values using their technical knowledge, or do you think it's more likely that you're able to teach technical expertise to somebody who already shares the same core values?
I personally don't like much the question, because I think there's so many variety of people that you tend to find the right ones, and some will be more technical, some will be more people's skill, but they have to have a little bit of both. You cannot have all one or not the other. You have to have both. Teaching people skills is very difficult. But if you don't have people skills, you're not in sales. You're working in the back office. You're not in sales. You have to have people skills, and in our business, you have to have some level of technical. The guy that sells you a car can tell you have 4 pistons and have this size of wheels. I don't even know anything, but they know something about the technical. So we try to require a little bit higher technical skills, so they not only can understand what we do, but they can understand what others do, because at the end of the day, we're competing. Everyone is competing. So we have to be able to describe what we do versus others and show that we provide some value to the end client by using us. But in order to describe that, you have to have the people's skills. So we really want both.
So in an ideal world, you get both. The reason I ask is that we've had a couple of guests so far say, I'm not interested in technical experience because we can teach you that. Give me somebody who's got the right core values and we can teach that bit on top. And so they were quite keen to say technical knowledge is a nice to have, but it's not essential. So I just was interested in your thoughts.
No, we want the technical knowledge. If you come and you have the best people's skills, but you can never get that technical knowledge, it's not going to work for us.
Fair enough. It's always just interesting to get a different perspective on things. So what we've also seen is that training can be done from the business. We can see that people can be enrolled in additional, extracurricular work to help improve those skills, both on the technical and the people side of things. But we see quite a lot of mentorship also having an influence over people. What's your experience been like, both as a mentee and a mentor?
Oh, man, I have to be grateful to so many people. Look, I'm a geek at the end of the day. I came from, you cannot get more engineering and science out. Well, you can, but let me be clear. But I have my fair share, I learned so much from so many people. From people that were on the sales team, on the marketing teams, on the legal teams, on the tax team, globally. I learned so much. And so I'm extremely thankful to all of them. We learn from anyone. I'm learning from you. All of us learn from anyone. And so, yes, you need that ability to learn from others. And in our team, I told you that we like everyone to be able to say whatever they want, as long as they are polite. You say, no, Eduardo, this gray suit doesn't really go in front of the camera, and when you have squares in the shirt, get blurry. It's good feedback, and next time I will not do it. So we want people to be able to speak up and say, and that process of speaking up is also a process of providing feedback. Because it goes one way, it goes the other way. It goes between two that are just peers. It goes across, and we do a lot of training among ourselves. We meet at least twice a year with all the team members in order to provide what we learn, what lessons, what's going on, how we do better. And people try to say these are my best practices, and we do meetings. Every week, a call for 1.5 hours. It's just on the same topics, because everyone learns from each other. And people want feedback. I want feedback. Did I do this right or wrong? And people also want feedback. I think it's better not to position that way, because it really doesn't work. It's difficult to understand. So we are very open to mentorship, feedback. I think that's a way to progress. If you don't want feedback, it's difficult to progress.
Yeah, I think one of the consistent themes we see is that the influence of positive mentorship, but also learning from other people how not to do things and thinking to yourself, that's not necessarily the route I would take, whether that person's open to feedback to change it or not, but understanding that there are different ways of doing things, and that sometimes seeing things in action gives you some kind of good foundations on how not to do things.
We want people to succeed. If we work together, I want you to succeed. And my job is to help you succeed. That's my job. The same as your job is helping me succeed, no? But my job is to help you succeed. My job is not to take your job because I get a bigger pay. No, I don't like people that think, well, there is a pie and I want a bigger slice of the pie. I want people that think, let's make the pie bigger so that everyone gets a better slice. And that mentality is important for us. And so if you have the mentality that I want a bigger slice of the pie, I'm not going to help you. Because if I help you, you may take my slice of the pie instead of me taking your slice of the pie. If the mentality is, let's make the pie bigger, yeah, now it's different. Because if I help you, the pie is going to be bigger, and all of us will be better off. So that's a mentality that I like. Not competing, but not competing that says, I want to take your lunch. No, let's compete so the lunch is bigger for everyone.
There's this perception that financial advice in the US is further ahead than it is in Europe, potentially from a technological standpoint, maybe from products that are available. ETFs are a good example of that, where they've been wholeheartedly accepted across the pond and not necessarily up to that level. What trends are you seeing in the US at the moment that really excite you about the financial advice space and the product providers that work in that?
I'm no one to say that the US is more advanced than the UK in financial advice. I don't even have information on that. So that I don't know. For example, in the UK, you have a lot of money that is not just UK, it's also offshore and UK, and people moving across countries. That's a very complicated process that in general we don't see in UK. So in the US, sorry. So I'm not saying that one is more advanced than the other. So when things that we see in the US, so 6 years ago, ETF were big in the US, but today are basically the investment vehicle, unless if you are in a 401k plan that is a retirement plan sponsored by a company. Mutual funds are in just very sharp decline. Even for retirement money, not for 401k money, but for rollover money, non-taxable money. You can have your own retirement account called a rollover account or an IRA account. And that, they're not taxed, but ETF are huge there. The only place that funds are big are in 401k plans because of technical issues, the Plan B. But even there is another vehicle that probably you guys haven't heard very much. It's called CITs, Collective Investment Trusts, that is encroaching into funds. So funds are in a very bad shape in the United States with a lot of outflows. So that's something. But look, that's very technical for us. For you, ETF is going to grow. It's a better vehicle. You use cell phones. You don't use pay phones. And remember the pay phones in London, there were the red boxes. There are not many. Because everyone uses a cell phone. New technologies come and take over all technology because they provide advantages to people. And so ETF is a new technology. It provides, relative to a fund with an ETF, that is prevents or minimizes the effect of other people's actions on your own investments. In a fund, you send money, has to be invested. Who pays for that money that is being invested? All the shareholders. So there are many things that make the fund less effective than ETFs. So ETFs are growing all around the world, and they will continue growing. I always think about cell phones. Cell phones versus pay phones. You can have a pay phone with with coins. Then you can have an improvement. Have a pay phone with a credit card or a calling card. I don't know if you remember that. I do. But at the end of the day, when you have a technology that is much better, like a cell phone, pay phones don't have a wall. Maybe in jail or in airport, but nowhere else. And that's going to happen. It's written on the walls. It's happening. It's taking the U.S. completely. It took time. It's taking the U.S. completely. It's going to happen all around Europe and Asia and everyone, it's a much better vehicle.
We can watch this episode back in a few years' time and you can say, I told you so.
Well, it's not me. You can see the numbers. You can see the numbers.
Well, they know who to go to if they've got any questions on ETFs anyway. And just for our final question then, for our audience who are sitting there watching this, who have taken a lot of insights from your experience and your view of the world, what piece of advice would you leave our audience with?
My piece of advice is going to be mine, and it's not perfect by any means. But I always say, do the extra mile, even if you don't think that you're getting paid. Some people say, well, I don't do the extra mile because I don't get paid for that. It doesn't matter. Do it. Do it. If that makes a difference, do it. Sooner or later, things get recognized. So do the extra mile. Put the extra effort. Try to just win that extra battle. It doesn't matter if you are being recognized today or not for that. That effort just pays off at the end of the day. And, that makes everyone better off. You have a happier client, you have a happier, teammate because you are helping, a happy boss because you are doing something. All this pays off at the end of the day. And try to find a place to work that is fun, and try to enjoy your work. Because if you don't enjoy your work, you will not do the extra mile. You are not going to do all the things. Find a place where you say, I like what I do. I like the process. And this is something that I feel very gratified.
Eduardo, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for your time.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.